Okay, we are going to construct seams used in clothing construction. In this grade, we are going to cover 3 seams: overlaid seam, machine fell seam, and French seam. French seam is not a conspicuous seam because the stitches are not seen on the right side. Double stitched seam and overlaid seam are seams which show stitches on the right side. We are working on the overlaid seam. You have 2 pieces of fabric. Match the raw edges and then mark 1.5 centimeter seam allowance from the free edge. You mark 1.5 centimeter seam allowance from the raw edge on both sides. So that is 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. Then we mark on the opposite side also, on the lower side. .5 centimeters seam allowance. On working of the overlaid seam, we have 2 layers. One will be called underlay and one will be called overlay. So what we will do with the overlay is we are going to make a fold along the fitting line towards the wrong side. This is right side and this is wrong side. So we want to fold along the seam line towards the wrong side. Then we press so that it can lie flat. You can also tuck when the fabric is slippery and does not respond to pressing. So we press the seam. So we have pressed the overlay. We folded it to the wrong side and pressed the seam allowance flat. So we bring now the overlay to the underlay with the wrong side of the overlay lying on the right side of the underlay. So this is right side and this is wrong side. If there are any methods of controlling fullness on the underlay, you're supposed to work them out before you bring the 2 pieces together. So we bring the overlay onto the underlay, wrong side of the overlay to the right side of the underlay. Match the seam lines or the fitting lines like that. Then, because the 2 lines are marked, then you pin you pin the pieces together. Matching the two fitting lines very well. After this, you tuck through the 3 layers, because the overlay has 2 layers and the underlay is on 1 layer. So we pin together, then tuck. You tuck firmly. So we want to tuck along the fitting line. So after tucking, we remove the pins. Then we machine stitch the seam on the right side, close to the fold. Stitch back to reinforce the beginning of stitchery. At the end of stitching, you also stitch back to reinforce. Then we remove the work. So we have made our permanent stitches, machine permanent stitches close to the fold, which is here. We then remove the tucking stitches and then we press the work. Press the work to make it flat. After pressing, we trim the seam allowance to 1 centimeter. That means out of 1.5, we remove 5 millimeters. So we trim off 5 millimeters and remain with 1 centimeter of the seam allowance. So we have removed 5 millimeters. We are left with 1 centimeter. Then from here we use loop stitches to neaten the raw edges of the seam. To start, you make 2 back stitches. You make 2 back stitches To start the loop stitches, you make 2 back stitches. If the 2 back stitches don't secure the beginning of your stitchery, you can do a third one. Then from here, you do the loop stitches. The loop stitches should be 3 millimeters in length, and it should also be well distributed at a distance of 2 to 3 millimeters apart. They should be neat, and they should not be too tight, because if they are too tight, it will fold the raw edge of the seam, and that will cause unnecessary bulk, will create unnecessary bulk. And again, when they are too loose, they can easily pull out. So these are the loop stitches that we are making using hand stitches and stitchery to neaten the edge of the overlaid seam.